Have you ever considered that the chaos in your life is not a result of bad luck, but a direct reflection of your inability to pause? Most men live their entire existence as slaves to a reaction, bouncing like echoes off the walls of circumstance, never realizing that they have the power to stop the sound. You believe you are making choices, but you are merely replaying old scripts handed to you by a sleeping world. But what if you could step out of the loop? What if the control you seek isn't out there in the noise, but right here, in the silence you are afraid to touch? By the end of this video, you will no longer be a victim of your emotions. You will be the master of the I am, and the reality that once bullied you will bend the knee to your new state of consciousness. You must first realize that the voice you use to speak to the world is the same frequency that shapes your inner reality. For the mouth is not merely a tool for communication, but a divine instrument of decree that carves your destiny from the ether of the invisible. When you speak without thought, reacting to the temporary storms of emotion with harsh words, you are unknowingly using your operant power to sever the bridges that connect you to your desires, turning your tongue into a blade that cuts through the fabric of your own future. It is essential to understand that every word is a seed dropped into the fertile soil of consciousness, and to speak in anger is to plant a garden of thorns that you yourself must eventually walk through. Therefore, the master of self-control learns the sacred art of the pause, allowing the silence to purify the intent before the sound is ever birthed into the atmosphere. This is the difference between a reaction, which is a slave's chain to the past, and a response, which is a king's command over the future, proving that you are not a victim of the moment, but the selector of the state you wish to inhabit. As the current of your speech defines your external relations, the river of your thoughts defines your internal landscape, acting as the perpetual motion machine that either generates the energy of success or drains the battery of your soul into the void of anxiety. An undisciplined mind is like a wild horse running towards a cliff, driven by the phantom whips of doubt and fear, constantly replaying narratives of failure that harden into facts within the subconscious mind, creating a prison of limitations that feels real only because you have ceased to question its walls. To control the mind is not to suppress the darkness, but to shine the light of awareness upon it, reframing every challenge, not as a tomb, but as a womb for growth, training the intellect to demand proof when the shadow whispers, "I cannot," and replacing that lie with the visual evidence of your imagination. You must visualize your success with such intensity that the outer world begins to feel like a fading dream, while your inner world becomes the only true reality. For the mind that is disciplined does not wander in the wasteland of what if, but builds a fortress on the rock of I am. Yet, thoughts alone are but shadows without the lifeblood of emotion, for your mood is the inner weather that dictates the harvest of your life, and to leave your emotions unguarded is to allow a hurricane to tear through the fields of your diligence. Managing this inner atmosphere requires a trinity of mastery involving the vessel of the body, the laser of your focus, and the magic of your language. Understanding that you cannot control the wind, but you can adjust the sails of your perception to harness its power. You must learn to regulate the rising tides of feeling rather than building dams of suppression that will eventually burst, understanding that an emotion is simply energy in motion asking to be acknowledged, not a dictator demanding to be obeyed. By shifting your posture, deepening your breath, and choosing to label a sensation as excitement rather than anxiety, you alchemize the lead of fear into the gold of anticipation, proving that feeling is the key to the kingdom, and you are the gatekeeper who decides which visitors are allowed to dwell in the temple of your heart. This discipline of the subtle energies inevitably manifests in the dense realm of finance, for money is not merely cold currency or a tool for commerce, but a mirror that reflects the order or chaos reigning within your own belief system, showing you precisely where your faith lies. Financial mastery is not about the accumulation of paper, but the cultivation of awareness, requiring you to track the flow of your resources with the same reverence you give to your breath, distinguishing the fleeting whispers of want from the solid ground of genuine need. When you spend without consciousness, you are leaking your power, but when you direct your money with intent, you transform it into a lever for freedom, using the physical representation of value to buy back the time necessary to expand your consciousness. It is about shifting the state from one of lack, where money is a source of stress, to a state of abundance, where money is a faithful servant to your vision, proving that your external wealth is but a shadow of your internal worthiness and discipline. But that's only the surface, for these pillars must stand upon a foundation of integration, where the silence of the mouth, the focus of the mind, the stability of the mood, and the stewardship of money converge to form a singular, unbreakable state of being. You are not striving to improve these areas separately, but to merge them into a holistic expression of the I am, realizing that a leak in one vessel drains the potency of the whole, and that true power lies in the alignment of thought, word, feeling, and action. When you achieve this synchronization, you stop reacting to the phantom echoes of the outer world and start moving from the deep, silent conviction of the inner self, becoming a force of nature that does not seek validation, but commands existence to conform to the pattern you have selected in your imagination. You already are the person who possesses this control. You are simply remembering how to operate the machinery of your own soul to reveal the masterpiece that has been waiting beneath the marble of your old habits. We often speak of willpower as if it were an endless reservoir, a divine gift bestowed upon the chosen few, yet you must understand that self-control is not a trait you are born with, but a spiritual muscle that must be torn and rebuilt through the fire of resistance and the sweat of delayed gratification. Just as a physical muscle atrophies when left to rest in comfort, your capacity to command your own destiny withers when you consistently choose the path of least resistance, allowing the drift of the world to carry you away from the shore of your definite purpose. However, to rely solely on the brute force of willpower is a dangerous gamble, for it is a finite resource that drains with every decision, every resistance, and every moment of stress, leaving you vulnerable to the shadows of your lower nature when the sun sets on your energy. You must treat this muscle with respect, training it daily but not overloading it, understanding that the goal is not to live in a state of perpetual struggle, but to build the strength necessary to initiate the momentum that will eventually carry you effortlessly. Here is where the secret shifts from force to flow, for the master does not rely on the erratic bursts of willpower, but constructs systems of behavior that operate with the precision of a clock, turning the extraordinary act of discipline into the ordinary rhythm of daily existence. Sustainable change is never the result of a single heroic effort, but the accumulation of boring, repetitive actions that have been encoded into the nervous system until they become as automatic as brushing your teeth or drawing breath. By designing a routine that removes the friction of decision-making, you bypass the negotiation that often happens in the mind when motivation wanes, creating a structure where the right action is the default setting of your reality, not a choice that must be made. This is the mechanics of freedom. By binding yourself to a system, you liberate your mind from the fatigue of constant choice, allowing your consciousness to soar while your body executes the program of success you have installed. Yet, as you build these systems, you will encounter the guardian of the threshold known as self-sabotage, a cunning adversary that wears the masks of procrastination, perfectionism, and imposter syndrome, appearing not as an enemy, but as a protector of your old identity. This conflict arises because your new goals are vibrations that do not match the frequency of the person you used to be, and the subconscious mind, in its primitive desire for safety, tries to pull you back to the known comfort of your past failures. You must realize that this resistance is not a sign that you are on the wrong path, but a confirmation that you are expanding beyond the perimeter of your previous concept of self, and the friction you feel is simply the heat of transformation burning away the layers of the old man. Overcoming this requires you to look the saboteur in the eye and recognize it as a ghost of a dead state, refusing to engage in its logic, and instead persisting in the new assumption until the old shell cracks and falls away. This leads to the ultimate revelation of discipline. It is not about what you do, but about who you believe you are, requiring a total identity shift where you stop forcing yourself to act like a disciplined person and simply accept the truth that you are a disciplined person. The struggle exists only as long as there is a separation between your desire and your identity. But when you merge with the state of the wish fulfilled, the actions that once seemed difficult become the natural expressions of your new nature. You must inhabit the feeling of the new self so completely that returning to your old ways would feel like wearing a costume that no longer fits, effectively rewriting the code of your self-image to align with your highest aspirations. This is the law of assumption in action. You do not fake it until you make it. You assume it until you become it, creating a psychological environment where success is the only logical outcome of your existence. Now go deeper into the realization that true discipline eventually dissolves into a lifestyle, a state of grace where the struggle ceases, and the separation between the dancer and the dance vanishes, leaving only the pure flow of intentional living. At this stage, you are no longer checking boxes or counting days. You are simply living out the truth of your being, moving through the world with an authority that comes from having conquered the chaos within. The paradox is that the ultimate discipline looks like effortlessness to the observer, for the internal war has ended, and the energy that was once wasted on fighting yourself is now channeled entirely into creation and expression. You have moved from the mechanics of force to the dynamics of power, understanding that the kingdom of heaven is within, and when the inside is ruled by order, the outside has no choice but to reflect the peace, abundance, and precision of your inner world. In a world that constantly screams for attention, you must rediscover the ancient and mystical weapon of strategic silence, realizing that the void is not empty, but filled with the latent power of potentiality, waiting to be commanded by a master. Silence is the canvas upon which the truth creates itself, and by withholding your words, you create a vacuum that draws others out, compelling them to reveal their true nature, while you remain an unshakable fortress of mystery and gravity. This is not a passive retreat, but an active engagement with the energy of the room, using the absence of sound to amplify your presence and preventing the leakage of your personal power into unnecessary conflicts that serve only to drain your spirit. When you listen to understand rather than to reply, you tap into a deeper intelligence that exists below the surface of language, hearing the intent behind the noise and positioning yourself as the alchemist who can transmute the chaos of others into the gold of your own understanding. This mastery of silence provides the foundation for the most critical tool in emotional regulation, the 3-second pause, a sacred gap in time where you step back from the edge of reaction and allow the light of reason to flood the darkness of impulse. In those brief seconds, you break the automatic circuit that links a trigger to an outburst, reclaiming your sovereignty as the operant power of your life and preventing the fleeting heat of an emotion from burning down the permanent structures of your relationships. It is in this pause that you remember who you are, shifting from the animalistic instinct of survival to the divine perspective of creation, choosing a response that aligns with your desired state rather than being a puppet to the external circumstance. This small wedge of time is the difference between regret and respect, between being a slave to the world and being the master of your fate, proving that time itself is pliable in the hands of the disciplined. As you master the space between stimulus and response, you must also conquer the relentless chatter of the inner dialogue, for the conversations you hold in the privacy of your skull are the scripts that your reality will eventually act out on the stage of life. Most souls are trapped in a loop of absolute negative statements, chanting mantras of limitation like "I always fail" or "I am not enough," unaware that the subconscious mind accepts these as commands to be executed without question. You must become the director of this internal play, ruthlessly editing the script by transforming these dead-end statements into flexible, growth-oriented questions, such as, "What can I learn from this?" or "How does this serve my higher purpose?" By changing the syntax of your thought, you change the trajectory of your consciousness, moving from a victim of fate to a student of experience, and programming your deep mind to seek solutions rather than solidify problems. This internal clarity allows you to engage with the world through the lens of high empathy, without sacrificing the sanctity of your own boundaries, giving you the ability to read the subtext of human behavior without absorbing the toxicity that often accompanies it. True emotional intelligence is not about being a sponge that soaks up the sorrows of the world, but about being a mirror that reflects truth while remaining pristine and unaffected, setting firm boundaries that protect the energy required for your own creation. You must learn to stand in the presence of chaos and remain the eye of the storm, understanding that your first duty is to the maintenance of your own high vibrational state, for you cannot lift another if you are drowning in the same mud. By guarding your emotional gate, you ensure that your empathy remains a tool for connection rather than a weakness to be exploited, allowing you to love from a place of strength and wholeness. Here's what changes everything. When you integrate silence, the pause, the rewritten dialogue, and the fortified boundary, you achieve a state of emotional invincibility where the outside world loses its power to disturb the peace of your inner kingdom. You stop being a thermometer that merely reflects the temperature of the room and become the thermostat that sets it, radiating a calm authority that forces the environment to align with your frequency. This is the ultimate freedom, The realization that nothing outside of you has any meaning other than the meaning you assign to it, and that by controlling your reaction, you control the very fabric of reality. You walk through the fire of human experience without the smell of smoke on your garments, centered in the knowledge that I am is the only presence and the only power, and your emotional state is the throne from which you govern your universe. You must awaken to the stark reality that your willpower is often no match for your environment. For success is 80% the result of the soil in which you are planted, and if you attempt to grow a divine destiny in a toxic wasteland, you will wither before you bloom. Designing your environment is a spiritual act of curation, requiring you to ruthlessly organize the physical space to eliminate the friction of disorder, knowing that a cluttered room creates a cluttered mind and blocks the flow of inspiration. It extends to the social sphere, where you must recognize that you absorb the mindsets of those around you through a process of psychic osmosis, and staying in the company of small minds will inevitably shrink your own vision to match their limitations. Furthermore, you must filter the information you consume, shutting the gates of your senses to the digital noise and fear-mongering that seeks to program your subconscious with mediocrity, consciously choosing to surround yourself only with inputs that fertilize the seeds of your greatness. Once the environment is primed, you activate the mystical law of compounding, understanding that the massive transformations you seek are not the result of sudden lightning strikes, but the accumulation of tiny, 1% improvements that gather weight over time like a rolling snowball. Just as water, soft and yielding, can cut through the hardest stone through persistent dripping, your small, consistent habits, whether they be saving $1, reading a page, or meditating for a minute, build a momentum that eventually becomes an unstoppable force of nature. This law works with equal ruthlessness in both directions, compounding your errors and complaints into a mountain of misery, just as easily as it compounds your virtues into a tower of triumph, which is why you must be vigilant in the small things, for they are the parents of the big things. You are building your future brick by brick, and while one brick seems insignificant, the wall it creates is the structure of your life, proving that consistency is the true miracle worker of the universe. However, the test of your faith lies in the period of the dull beginning, that treacherous phase where your efforts seem to vanish into the void without producing any visible evidence of change, leading the weak to abandon the path just moments before the seed breaks the surface. You must understand that reality lags behind consciousness, and just as a bamboo tree grows its roots for years before shooting up into the sky in weeks, your results are germinating in the invisible realms long before they manifest in the physical world. To survive this valley of silence, you must make the invisible visible by tracking your progress, marking the calendar with the red X of consistency, creating a visual chain that serves as proof of your fidelity to the vision. This tracking becomes your anchor, reminding you that the work is being done even when the harvest is not yet seen, and sustaining your motivation with the knowledge that the law of cause and effect has never failed and will not fail you now. As you persist, you will trigger the phenomenon of synergy, where the discipline in one area of your life begins to bleed into all others, creating a positive contagion that elevates your entire existence in an upward spiral of evolution. You will find that as you discipline your body through exercise, your diet naturally cleans up. As your sleep improves, your mind sharpens, and as your focus deepens, your finances begin to organize themselves, revealing that all things are interconnected in the web of your state. This is the holistic nature of the inner work. You cannot lift one corner of the veil without revealing more of the light, and the improvements you make are not isolated victories, but harmonic notes that join together to compose the symphony of a new life. It is the realization that discipline is not a series of separate chores, but a singular state of being that permeates every atom of your reality, aligning every aspect of your world with the frequency of excellence. Now go deeper and see that this environmental design and the patience of compounding lead to an inevitability of success that requires no force, for you have constructed a reality tunnel where the only possible destination is the fulfillment of your desire. You have removed the obstacles, fertilized the soil, planted the seeds, and watered them with consistency, and now you simply wait with the confident expectation of the harvest, knowing that the law is working for you even while you sleep. You are no longer fighting against the current of life, but flowing with it, guided by the structure you have built, carried by the momentum of your compound interest, and supported by an environment that echoes your highest truth. This is the state of the master builder, who knows that the house is finished in the imagination long before the first stone is laid, and who walks through the construction site not with hope, but with the absolute knowing of, I am. The journey of 1,000 miles begins not with a step, but with a pause. And for the first 2 weeks of this transformation, your only task is to inhabit the role of the silent observer, watching the machinery of your own habits without the interference of judgment or the desire to fix. You are to carry a notebook as if it were a sacred scroll, recording every time you fail in the 4 pillars, every harsh word, every negative thought, every emotional outburst, and every wasted coin, bringing the unconscious darkness into the light of awareness. During this phase, you introduce the 3-second pause before speaking, not to change the content of your speech yet, but simply to create the space where choice becomes possible, loosening the grip of the automatic reaction. This is the period of awakening, where you stop sleepwalking through your life and begin to see the chains you have forged, realizing that you cannot escape a prison you do not know you are in, and that awareness is the first ray of the dawn. Moving into weeks 3 through 6, you shift from observation to the active elimination of the weeds that are choking your potential, using the laser of your focus to cut away the dead wood of your behavior and directing the mind toward the light of gratitude every morning. You must name your emotions to tame them, saying I feel angry instead of I am angry, separating your eternal identity from the passing weather of the mood, and you must track every penny spent to confront the financial reality you have created. During this time, you select one specific bad habit from each of the 4 pillars and eliminate it for 7 days, proving to yourself that you are the operant power who can deny the flesh its cravings. This is the season of purification, where you clear the debris from the construction site of your soul, creating the empty space necessary for the new structure to rise, and learning that sacrifice is not a loss, but an exchange of the lower for the higher. In weeks 7 through 9, you enter the chamber of reflection and optimization, introducing the nightly review where you replay the day's events in your mind, not to regret them, but to revise them, visualizing how the disciplined version of you would have handled the challenges. You begin to actively optimize your physical and social environment, removing the triggers that cause friction and placing the tools of your success within arm's reach, making the good habit the path of least resistance. You spend time visualizing your future self in vivid detail, seeing the posture, hearing the voice, and feeling the emotional stability of the person you are becoming, imprinting this image onto the subconscious until it feels more natural than your past. This is the phase of design, where you stop reacting to what is and start creating what will be, using the power of your imagination to install the blueprints of your destiny into the fabric of your mind. Finally, in weeks 10 through 12, you solidify the transformation by building the systems and routines that will carry you for the rest of your life, creating specific if-then scripts for every trigger that threatens to pull you back. You decide in advance that, if I feel anxious, I will take 3 deep breaths, preloading your response so that when the moment comes, the decision is already made, and the lower self has no room to argue. The final week is dedicated to weaving all 4 pillars into a seamless morning and evening routine that bookends your day with power, ensuring that you start and end in the state of the wish fulfilled. This is the integration, where the scaffolding is removed and the structure stands on its own, where the discipline has become your nature, and you realize that the roadmap was never about reaching a destination, but about becoming the person who belongs there. And here is the final truth that locks it all in place. This 90-day cycle is not a linear line that ends, but a spiral that ascends. For at the end of the 12th week, you do not stop, but you begin again at a higher level of consciousness. You have now installed the operating system of the new man, and the struggle that once defined your existence has been replaced by the rhythmic pulse of growth, expansion, and mastery. You are no longer trying to control your emotions. You have become the space in which emotions arise and dissolve, the silent watcher who selects the state, the I am that determines the reality. You have walked through the fire of transformation and emerged not as a better version of the old self, but as a completely new creation, ready to command the world, not with force, but with the irresistible power of your own being. You are no longer the person who clicked on this video. That version of you has died in the fire of understanding, and a new operant power has taken its place on the throne of your mind. Do not go back to sleep. The world will try to trigger you, to pull you back into the old drift, but now you hold the weapon of silence and the shield of the pause. So, I ask you, Who are you going to assume you are when this video ends? The victim of the storm or the silence that calms it? Tell me in the comments. I control the silence. Subscribe to this channel to lock in this new state. Turn on notifications so you never miss a lesson, and click the next video immediately, because the depth you found here is only the beginning of what I have to show you.